Hello, my friends. Today, we will follow a very simple object. It is something most people use every day. It protects our feet. It helps us walk. It helps us work. It helps us travel. This object is the shoe. But the story of shoes is much older than cities, older than writing, and older than many famous kingdoms. So let us go back to the beginning, to the first human steps. A very long time ago, people did not live in houses like ours. They lived in small groups. They walked through forests, over stones, across hot sand, and over cold ground. Their feet were strong, but the world was not gentle. Sharp rocks could cut the skin. Ice could hurt the toes. Hot earth could burn the feet. Thorns could enter the skin. One small foot injury could become a big problem, because ancient people had to move to find food. So the first shoes were not made for fashion. They were made for survival. At first, people probably used very simple protection. Maybe they wrapped animal skin around the foot. Maybe they tied plant fibers under the sole. Maybe they used bark, grass, leather, or soft animal hide. These early shoes did not last for thousands of years in most places. Organic materials break down quickly. Wood breaks, leather rots, grass disappears. So we do not have many of the first shoes, but we have some rare examples, because dry caves and cold places protected them. One of the oldest known types of footwear comes from Fort Rock Cave in Oregon, in the United States. These were sandals made from plant fibers. They were not leather shoes. They were woven sandals, made from sagebrush bark and other natural fibers. Scientists have dated Fort Rock-style sandals to about 10,400 to 9,100 years ago. This means that people in North America were already making useful footwear very early in human history. These sandals had a flat sole, and some had a toe cover. They were simple, but they were smart. Imagine a person making one of these sandals. This person sits near a fire. The air is cool. The hands are busy. The fibers must be cleaned, twisted, and woven. The maker knows the land well. They know which plants are strong. They know which fibers can bend. They know how to make a sandal that will not fall apart after a few steps. This is not a small skill. This is technology, quiet technology, made by human hands. In some cold places, shoes became even more important. Cold can be dangerous. Feet can lose feeling. A person cannot hunt, travel, or carry food with frozen feet. So ancient people learned to make warmer footwear. They used animal skin, fur, grass, and bark fibers. Grass could be placed inside a shoe to keep the foot warm. This idea may sound simple, but it shows deep understanding. People were learning how to use layers. They were learning how to keep warmth close to the body. One famous ancient person shows us this clearly. His name is Utsi. Today, people call him the Iceman. He lived more than 5,000 years ago. His body was found in the Alps, a mountain area in Europe. His shoes were very clever. They had leather, plant fibers, and insulation inside. They were made for walking in cold mountain conditions. They were not beautiful fashion shoes. They were working shoes. They helped a real person move through a hard world. Another very important discovery came from Armenia. In a cave called Arini I, archaeologists found a leather shoe. It was found in 2008. It is about 5,500 years old. It was made from one piece of leather. It had a leather cord to close it. It even had grass inside. Scientists think the grass may have kept the foot warm, or helped the shoe keep its shape when it was not worn. This shoe is amazing because it looks surprisingly familiar. It is old, but it feels close to something we can understand today. Think about that for a moment. A person wore that shoe around 3,500 years before Christ. This person walked on real ground, maybe through a village, maybe near animals, maybe near fields. The shoe was not a symbol in a museum then. It was just part of daily life. Someone put it on, tied it, walked in it, and trusted it. That is why old shoes feel so human. They connect us to ordinary people, not only kings and warriors. As farming grew, shoes changed too. People worked in fields. They walked in mud. They carried water. They moved animals. They needed footwear that fit their land. In warm places, sandals were useful. They let the feet breathe. In cold or rocky places, closed shoes were better. There was no single invention called the shoe. Instead, many groups of people invented foot protection in different ways. They used what they had around them: leather in one place, reeds in another place, wood in another. In ancient Egypt, sandals became common for many people. The land was hot, and sandals made sense. Some were made from papyrus, palm leaves, or leather. Many poor people walked barefoot, but sandals could show status too. Rich people had better materials, and leaders could have decorated sandals. In Egypt, the sandal was practical, but it could also speak about power. A ruler's sandal could be more than protection. It could be a sign of rank. In ancient Greece and Rome, footwear became more varied. People wore sandals, boots, and different shoes for different jobs. Roman soldiers wore strong military sandals called calogae. These had thick soles and sometimes metal nails under the bottom. They helped soldiers march long distances on rough roads. A Roman army could not move without feet, and feet needed protection. In this way, shoes helped history move, step by step, road by road. Roman footwear also showed social life. Different people wore different styles. A senator, a soldier, a worker, and a slave might not wear the same thing. Shoes could show who you were. They could show your job, your money, or your place in society. This idea did not disappear. Even today, shoes can say something about a person. We notice work boots, sports shoes, dress shoes, school shoes, and expensive fashion shoes. The old idea is still with us. After the fall of Rome, Europe changed. Cities became smaller in many places. Travel became more difficult, but shoes remained necessary. In the Middle Ages, most shoes were handmade. A shoemaker cut the leather, shaped it, sewed it, and fitted it to the foot. Shoes were valuable. People repaired them again and again. A poor person did not buy many pairs. A pair of shoes had to last, so repair was part of life. Medieval shoes could also be strange and interesting. In some places, rich people wore shoes with long pointed toes. These shoes were called poulaines. The longer the point, the more fashionable the shoe could seem. Sometimes fashion became so extreme that rules were made to limit it. This tells us something funny about human history. Even when shoes are made to protect the feet, people quickly use them to show style, pride, and identity. In wet and dirty streets, people used another clever idea: wooden overshoes. In parts of Europe, these were called pattens. A person could put them under softer shoes. The wood lifted the foot above mud, waste, and rainwater in the street. This was very practical. Cities did not always have clean roads. So shoes were not only about comfort, they were about health cleanliness, and daily safety. Then came a surprising change: the heel. Today, many people connect high heels with women's fashion. But in history, heels were first very useful for riders. A heel helped the foot stay in the stirrup when riding a horse. Persian riders used heeled footwear. Later, heels became fashionable in Europe, especially among rich men. A high heel made a person look taller. It also showed that the person did not need to do hard labor. Slowly, heels moved from riding to court fashion to many different styles. For a long time, shoes were not made as left and right pairs in the modern way. Many were straight shoes. The same shape could fit either foot. Over time, shoemakers learned to make shoes more carefully for the left foot and the right foot. This made walking more comfortable. It also showed that shoes were becoming more personal. A shoe was not only a cover anymore. It was a shaped tool for one human body. The biggest change came with machines. Before machines, every shoe took a lot of handwork. A shoemaker had to measure, cut, sew, and finish the pair. This took time, so shoes were expensive. Then the Industrial Revolution changed production. Machines could cut leather faster, sew stronger seams, and make many shoes at the same time. In the 19th century, shoe factories grew. Shoes became cheaper. More ordinary people could own more than one pair. This changed daily life. A worker could have work shoes, and maybe another pair for Sunday. A child could have school shoes. A city person could buy shoes in a shop instead of waiting for a shoemaker to make them from the beginning. Standard sizes became more common. The shoe became a product for the masses, not only a handmade item for one person at a time. Rubber brought another big change. Rubber soles were quiet, flexible, and useful. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, rubber-soled shoes became popular for sports and leisure. People began to play tennis, basketball, and other games in special shoes. These shoes were lighter than heavy leather boots. They helped people move quickly. This was the beginning of modern athletic footwear. In the 20th century, sneakers became part of everyday life. At first, they were mostly for sport. Then they moved into streets, schools, music, and fashion. A sneaker could be simple and cheap, or rare and expensive. It could be a sports tool, or a cultural symbol. This is one of the most interesting turns in shoe history. The object that began as protection from stones and cold ground became a way to express personality. But the basic idea never changed. A shoe still answers the same old human problem. The ground is hard. The foot is soft. We need to move. So we protect the foot. Every shoe, from an ancient fiber sandal to a leather boot to a modern sneaker, carries this same idea inside it. Shoes also tell us about the world around people. A sandal tells us about heat. A fur boot tells us about cold. A wooden clog tells us about wet ground and hard work. A soldier's shoe tells us about roads and armies. A dancer's shoe tells us about art. A running shoe tells us about sport and speed. Shoes are small objects, but they hold big stories. They also tell us about trade. When people found new materials, shoes changed. When leather became easier to prepare, shoes improved. When rubber spread around the world, soles changed. When factories grew, prices changed. When advertising grew, shoes became dreams as well as objects. A simple thing on the foot became connected to business, travel, technology, and culture. So when did shoes emerge? The honest answer is this. Shoes did not appear on one single day. They emerged slowly, because humans walked into difficult places. They emerged when people needed protection, warmth, and better movement. They emerged from human problem-solving, first with plants and skins, then with leather and sewing, then with wood, metal, rubber, and machines. The first shoemakers were not famous people. We do not know their names. They did not leave books. They did not build palaces, but they understood the body, the land, and the materials around them. They made something useful, and that useful thing stayed with humanity forever. Today, when you put on your shoes, you are part of this long story. You may be going to school, to work, to the shop, or just outside for a walk. But your shoes carry an old human idea. Protect the foot, move forward, continue the journey. And maybe that is why shoes feel so personal. They go with us everywhere. They touch the road before we do. They remember our steps. They become old with us. They carry dust from places we have been, in a quiet way. Every pair of shoes is a small map of a life. Thank you for listening today. I hope this story helped you learn English in a calm and interesting way. You are doing very well. Every story you hear makes your English stronger. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, write a comment, and subscribe for more simple English stories. Tell me what history topic you want to hear next, and I will be happy to walk with you again, step by step. Fact-check sources used. Fort Rock sandals are described as the oldest directly dated footwear, about 10,400 to 9,100 years old.